This image of me with the Sonichu medallion is one that I really wanted to share with the audience. Now, the Sonichu medallion is quite an intriguing tale right now at this moment in time, because there is something known as the Sonichu medallion curse that's been going on. And the whole curse basically comes out to any creator that has bought one of these, or has maybe received them at some point in their career, and as soon as you put this on, the dark energy manifests and your career fall off begins.
Let's get right into it. It all started when Mutahar ran on that Chud Logic stream and talked about ending the SomeOrdinaryGamers podcast, which featured Nux Taku as a co-host. This is one of the more important points to remember because he is seen constantly contradicting himself over this point later on down the road. First, here's a clip of that Chud Logic streamer. He initially said that the reason the podcast ended had a lot to do with Nux's connection with Man, who is known for drawing characters that involve underage girls. All you have to know about Man is that he is a very, very bad man, and you do not want to be associated with this guy in any way, form whatsoever.
And I also just want to say I don't ever would believe that Nux would have no idea about the man child drawing stuff. Like that would make no sense. He's been in this space long enough to know better. Sure. So if this was like a genuine interaction, like I have no doubt as somebody that is in the anime culture to not have any clue that man was doing crazy. Like you'd have no. If I knew that man was drawing kids and doing crazy, Nux definitely did, and that's never okay.
Okay. Are you going to keep him off the podcast?
No, we would cancel the podcast. It's not happening. The podcast is done.
This is hard because obviously, people want me
podcast is done, yeah. Podcast is done now.
Wait, what?
Yeah, the podcast is over. We are not filming the last episode. It's over.
Is that are you serious?
Yeah, we're not doing the podcast anymore. It's done.
Why?
We're supposed to film on Tuesday. Well, there's a couple reasons for it. A lot of that was obviously some of the stuff too.
So what were the allegations surrounding Nux's connections with Man? Well, there were two allegations. Number one, that he was communicating with Man because he was seen in a past video talking about how we quote-unquote talked with Man. Number two, he used Man's art for his thumbnail. Fast forward to a day later and this video drops from Nux Taku titled The Chris Tyson Situation Just Exposed Everyone, featuring Mutahar. Mutahar is featured in this video as evidenced by the title, also an important point, but before we get to that, Nux addresses his allegations regarding Man. In regards to number one, he clarified that by talking he mentioned Man was DMing him and he used his DMs as content to make fun of him. He never condoned what Man was doing or his art.
You don't understand. He sends me a DM, I make fun of the DM, people try to frame this as some kind of relationship, and therefore they're canceling me by association with this guy. I was on vacation, minding my own business, and I mentioned that man DM'd me weird out of the blue, and I made fun of him for it many times in videos and on the podcast, as seen in the very clip that they shared. I've never commissioned, promoted, been friends with him. I've never hidden that fact. Framing this as a relationship is disingenuous. And overall the reception's okay, because anyone with a normal eyes in their head would look at this and be like, oh yeah, definitely. What the frick? He DMs Nux. Nux makes fun of those DMs, and people are trying to cancel him for it.
Number two is that he did use his Man art thumbnail, but he didn't know that it was Man's initially when he uploaded it, thinking it was a Game of Thrones meme of sorts. When people told him, hey, that's Man art, he changed it after 15 minutes to avoid drama.
I did use Man art in a thumbnail once. I made a video talked about awful Game of Thrones, cursed Game of Thrones memes. One of the cursed Game of Thrones memes that popped up when I looked up cursed Game of Thrones on Google Images was Man art, and I didn't even know it was a Man art when I used it. I got comments saying I recognize Man art, etc., etc., and I changed the art, not last week to avoid drama, not yesterday so I could have a Zynga response video and make an apology. No apologies! I changed the art 2 to 3 years ago! I don't know how you could look up that this is a fact, but you'll notice any screenshots of that video that you find with the actual Man art is like 15 minutes after the video was posted. You're not gonna find any from later than that, because I changed it right when I figured out it was Man.
So Mutahar appeared on this video, apparently changing the narrative from how he said it on Chud Logic stream when he said that the SomeOrdinaryPodcast was being shut down and quote,
a lot of that was obviously some of the stuff too,
and Nux's association with it. Here in the video, he's seen contradicting the statement, stating that he wants to make it very clear that Nux had nothing to do with the podcast shutting down and that the timing of the podcast ending was purely coincidental. He also explains that the reason the podcast is shutting down temporarily is that they are focusing on restructuring the podcast so that he and his co-hosts, Oompaville and Nux, can gain ownership of the podcast and meet in real life instead of doing it over the internet.
Hey everybody, Muta here, and I just wanted to make it as clear as possible This podcast is not over because of Nux and his situation currently. Ladies and gentlemen, a couple days ago at this point, I was on a podcast, or not a podcast, but I was on a live stream with a creator known as Chud Logic, and I wasn't exactly clear as to the ending of the podcast, which really is an ending. Let me be more clear with you. The timing of this is actually purely coincidental. So me and Caleb and Nux have basically decided that it's better to restructure the podcast, basically have ownership ourselves, and to the point of actually making a set, so we do more IRL stuff. So a lot of it is really set on, building a set.
But here we have two very clearly contradicting statements, mainly that he said on one side that Nux's man situation played a lot of role in the podcast ending, and that later in Nux's video he said Nux had nothing to do with it and Nux's situation was purely coincidental. To be fair, Mutahar alluded to other reasons the podcast ended in the original stream with Chud Logic, but he did end up saying one thing on one video and saying something completely contradictory on the other, which led Chud Logic to be put under a lot of unfair criticism. And when later Chud Logic challenged him on this, Mutahar is seen dodging the question for like 7 minutes until Chud Logic gets absolutely mad and puts it into the simplest baby term words, and only then do we see Mutahar apologize. Well, kinda.
What was the reason for this confusion, which made me look kind of over the podcast? That's fine, but you said it was nothing to do with Nux Taku, which was totally different to what you said to me.
What do you mean?
Okay, this is all rambling that you're doing to distract from the issue, Mutahar. Let's cut to the chase here, okay? You said point A on my stream, okay, which gave one impression, and then you said point B. Point A being the podcast is ending, and it was very strongly implied it was because of Nux Taku, and then there's this investigation you apparently need to do, and then later
no.
Yes, you mentioned it, but the focus was on about Nux Taku having this connection with Shadman that coloured the whole thing, and that was the focus of what you were saying to me. Was it not?
Okay, but that was brought up on a stream.
Okay,
it was actually
Mutahar, let's cut the ball and let me read your words to you. Okay, I'm paraphrasing this. I'm quoting you, but this is from a larger statement. I can send you the transcript that someone's kindly said to me. It's not happening. The podcast is done. I say, dude, this is hard because obviously people want, and you say the podcast is done. Yeah, the podcast is done now. I say, wait, what? You say, yeah, the podcast is over. We're not filming. We are not filming the last episode now. I ask you if you're serious. You say, yeah, we're not doing the podcast anymore. I say, why? You say, we're supposed to film on Tuesday. Well, there's a couple of reasons for it. A lot of that was obviously the stuff too.
Yeah, a lot of it is the stuff as well, because at the time the YouTube drama list came out, and that was just one of the things we were looking at with Nux Taku. Because on your stream, you brought up the Nux Taku stuff, and it kind of hits me. Like, I can't obviously cover the other, business-related side of it. And yes, for that, I do really apologize, because I understand how I made you look terrible in that situation. I'm just asking to look at it from my perspective as somebody that's thrown into the den right there while I'm dealing with a bunch of stuff behind the scenes.
Okay, but
that's about
listen,
it. I'm sorry that made you look terrible. I really am.
Then after that, things seemed to be settling down after the issue having been unresolved for months. Then things took an interesting turn when this Reddit post came up titled Resurfaced Video of Oompavo, SomeOrdinaryGamers, and Nux Taku watching together on a Discord call. Now, obviously, we're not going to watch this. I think I can be fair in saying we really don't have to watch this video to do any sort of meaningful research, but we do have Mutahar explaining in his post-Nux Clarity video that he takes accountability for watching this weird anime material and that he's cutting ties with Nux Taku.
Nux Taku is a former collaborator, a former friend of mine, and I mean really a former friend of mine, because some of the stuff that I've seen over here is disgusting enough that I really can't continue a friendship, and I really can't, again, excuse some of my behavior watching some of this content as well.
We really don't have to get into the details of what video he watched. I mean, if you want to figure it out, it's all over YouTube, but we're not gonna watch it on this channel. He does apologize in great length to watching degenerate material, and it is absolutely shocking what Nux Taku did even to famous creators. For example, a video title is shown called I Showed YouTubers Extreme Anime Clips featuring Moist Critical and Project Melody. Apparently Nux Taku was doing all this weird stuff, but the one Mutahar was shown was a lot worse. Mutahar explains that he did not expect at all to see a degenerate material featuring kids, and he apologizes profoundly for having watched it.
And obviously with a lot of these larger creators also collaborating with him, I'm sorry to say it really did blindside me. There was a bias, call it, friendship bias, call it, there was other creators working on it, but really it was something that I was putting up a blind spot to, and I'm not using that as an excuse. I really shouldn't have done that collaboration, and I really shouldn't have watched that content, and if any way contributed to normalizing it.
He's seen saying he wants to take accountability for the whole thing, which is why he is uploading the video to his main channel. This is ironic considering the fact that shortly after this video was uploaded, it was taken down with him later saying he overreacted.
Because I think taking accountability is very important, and obviously, I believe taking accountability on the main channel is very important too.
So he apologized, and he made it 100% clear that he's burning the bridge with Nux Taku. He takes accountability, he apologized to Chud Logic, he messed up, he won't do it again.
So as far as there being a bridge between me and Nux Taku, it doesn't exist. And it won't ever exist. I don't feel comfortable ever associating with this person. And regardless of whatever past or friendship that I've had, whatever that led to a blind spot, I do 100% take accountability for my fuck-ups being part of some of these collaborations, competitions, these game shows, okay?
So that's it, which should be it. That should be the end of that, right? Well, then he took down the fucking apology video. Then later said on a community post, regarding the last video about Nux, while I can't be a friend after some of the recent things that surfaced, I do feel I did do an overreaction that stemmed from being emotional on the reaction from the community on Reddit. Jesus Christ. Then a shocking revelation came later that he even contradicted his statement that he can't be Nux's friend and that he burned all bridges when Nux revealed in his latest video that Mutahar gave him a phone call and apologized and they're friends again now.
So I did speak to Mutahar just now for like 2 hours. And basically we talked things out to a large degree. But I'm gonna do like the TLDR whole story here. First and foremost, if you're here just for like the Cliff's Notes answer, Muta apologized. We are still friends. That's the Cliff Notes answer.
Jesus Christ. And apparently because he tried to play both sides, well, it goes without saying that he's under a lot of criticism for watching degenerate stuff, but he's also taking shit from the other side as well. Like this user says, I've lost so much respect for Muta as someone who's watched them for a decade. Say what you want about Nux, but I think if your primary reason for ending a friendship and blasting them publicly is them engaging with fictional shit you find weird, you're a terrible friend. And that's where I stand now basically. So Mutahar tried to play both sides 3 times now. First he did it with Chud Logic and Nux when he said one thing on Chud's stream, then said another on Nux's. Then he posted an apology, then took down the apology saying it was an overreaction. Then he did it again when he said he was burning the bridge with Nux Taku, but then later made a phone call to Nux Taku behind the scenes saying they're cool. You know, this all reminds me of a quote my mom used to tell me all the time as a kid. Don't make bad friends.